What up? It's your girl Bewitched Fawn, and welcome to the second episode of Fawn's Horror Corner. This intro will be a little longer than usual because I gotta explain some changes. So, I am a newbie at making movie videos, and I realized upon my first upload that copyright is indeed a thing. I mean, like, I knew prior, I just didn't really know the extent of it. I don't know. But my first video isn't like taken down or anything, but I do need to make some changes from how I did things in the first one. So first off, no movie audio. And I'm thinking shortened clips as well of the movie, since other channels like Dead Meat have clips, but there's no audio and they're pretty short. So I might do that, or I might just insert like still images. I guess I'll see you when it gets uploaded. But it's just what I gotta do. So, with that aside, if you are new here, and you probably are, this is where I watch a random horror movie from Tubi and make some guesses and talk to you about the film, show my reactions and ramblings as I watched it the first time. And fair warning ahead, there will very obviously be spoilers. The movie I watched was called Delirium, which is from 2018. The description Tubi gave us was, after failing to return from a dare to approach a haunted house's doorstep, his friends go after him and discover just how haunted it really is. So, with that out of the way, let's get into the predictions. So this segment is where I make some predictions about what I think is to come. Since this is a haunted house movie, I really wanted to play on some common tropes for my predictions to see if it breaks the mold, sticks to the same playing field. So to get it started, number 1, white people fuck around and find out. This doesn't need much explanation ultimately. Usually if it's a haunted house, it's white folk. I can definitely attest to that one. Number 2, no one is leaving in the end. I feel like it's common in haunted house films for there to be really no one left alive in the end. Number 3, tragic backstory. I mean, it's haunted for a reason, right? Number 4, we have a skeptic character. There's usually one person in these that's a firm non-believer until given reason to believe otherwise. Number 5, the ghost looks cheesy. Honestly, maybe it's because it was the morning when I watched this, and I hadn't had my full cup of coffee yet, but my expectations were pretty on the low side. So I was expecting, cheap CGI or really piss-poor makeup on the ghosts. Number 6, a seance happens. Also playing along with the fuck around, find out kind of thing. White folk love some seances. Number 7, someone gets possessed a la Zach Bagans style, because why not? And lastly, number 8, screw it. Cheap cat scare. Like those scenes in some horror where they have a jump scare early on and you go, ooh, spooky scary, but then it's like a cat. Yeah, I'm expecting that. With the predictions out of the way, let's get into the movie. We start with the initial credits scene, but the audio is of a man telling another to take a camera, go down a path to a house, record what you made there, and then come back, and then you can be in the Hell Gang. Sounds legit, right? So we get a scene of said person in the dark woods just wandering about. He's clearly unnerved, and he's talking to himself to probably make himself feel better, which, honestly, same. I wouldn't say his conversation to himself is important enough for me to note, but there are many spooky, scary sounds happening around him, and he's getting more scared by the second. This goes on for, honestly, a lot longer than it needs to, but finally, after a few minutes of the rinse and repeat talking to himself with spooky sounds out and about, he does see a light in the distance and runs towards it, thinking it's his new besties. But yet again, there is a longer than it needs to be scene of him running through the woods with spooky, scary sounds. But wait, finally, he runs up to a pool when suddenly a red ball bounces in his direction. His eyes turn like a real funky color, and he starts calmly to go down the ladder and into the pool. He picks up the ball and it just launches out of his hand, and it puts him back to his like normal state. He's unsure of where he is, but then a little girl runs behind him in the background. And he starts calling for her, like, little girl. And he sounds an awful lot like Twitch streamers when they get too many followers. As he chases after her, he gets launched the hell back. He leaves the pool and he runs back into the woods, but he takes a tumble and he gets clocked right out. He wakes up right back inside the pool, but there's a creepy little girl crying in the corner of it, as I am sure anyone would in this situation. He walks up to her and he tries to console her, but she looks back and she's got black eyes and a mouth that's sewn shut. As he starts backing away from her, a different figure comes into view. A tall, dark figure in a long black dress emerges above where the child is, and this guy books it out of there. He manages to run right up to the house's porch, and a creepy, indistinct whisper chimes in as the door creaks open. His eyes do the spooky change, and he just strolls on into the house, and then we get a scene change. We get a really interesting opening credits intro into the movie. It was well shot, and it kept my eyes on it for sure. It just went on forever. After the eternally long credits, we get the title card, and the movie actually gets started. We start out with some of the group that we'll get to know soon enough. They're filming themselves during the day in front of the spooky mansion. Big old spooky mansion. I should have guessed that. That's a horror movie trope. That the haunted house is a big spooky mansion. My bad. They're having a conversation about whether or not it's spooky enough to send their Hell Gang initiates into to basically haze them into their gang. Kinda cringe, but okay. But they also make like a little side comment about how they still need to find Billy. But it doesn't seem to be high priority. What a friend, first off. Being like, we need to find Billy. I guess. Come on. What? F off. We shift from their footage to seeing one of the guys watching and editing it while a party is going on. And that's a bro code travesty right there. We get an introduction into a new guy wanting to join the gang. It seems like this poor guy just wants some damn friends, but of course, this group of guys have to make him join Hell Gang first before they can, like, really be friends with him. Wait, so are they hazing him? Like a fraternity? Kinda cringe. Oh, did I mention that it's boys only? No girls allowed. Sausage fest. He keeps like zooming through the footage, and we learn that not a single person has passed their hazing challenge, and honestly, maybe I'm just petty, but is it really worth it? These friends don't really seem like keepers. Know your worth, guys. Fast forward through the tapes, and it seems like the group is telling ghost stories about the family who lived in that house, the Brants. Supposedly, Mr. Brant built the mansion, but Mrs. Brant ultimately was the most happy around her kids. The whole 13 of them. 13th? Ain't no one gonna convince me to have 13 children. Excuse me? I mean, okay, I get it was in like probably like the ye old days where people were popping out kids like it was nobody's business, but are you alright after 13 kids? Because I don't know, Chief. I don't know. But the 13th, according to this one guy's story, pulled Mrs. Brant's innards out on the way out. thus making Mr. Brandt blame the kids on the mom's untimely end and making the father unalive them in the basement of the home. Tragic backstory. Ooh. Yeah, let's just check that one off. Then the dude bros in the video pull an epic prank and scare everyone around the fire with a spooky, scary old man mask. Whoa. We get more D-bag behavior on video where Eddie, the one being hazed, is clearly creeped out by it and he just wants to know what happened in the house. But the dude bros are like, whoa, bro, are you giving up already? Thus prompting poor Eddie to just do it so he can have these clearly really good group of friends. The editing is interrupted so our dude bros can actually initiate their hazing plan. We're in a car with the whole group and poor Eddie is asking about the first guy who attempted this challenge, Billy. Billy is the guy we saw at the beginning who very much failed in his attempt to join this fantastic group of friends. They're very nonchalant talking about Billy, despite the fact that he was never really found, I'm assuming. We learn that they just wanted to be nice to Billy, since he moves around every few months because he's got a military dad. And out of the good of their hearts, they wanted to be his friend for the few months he was going to live there. This makes Eddie question, well, I'm not moving, so why me? And they reassure him so well. Look, bro, we just picked you, okay? Wow, great, fantastic. Now, these miners are scoring some beer. Hell yeah, bro. Well, Eddie is outside the car talking to another one of the dude bros. He's getting reassured that, hey, bro, you got this, okay? Two of them inside the van are saying, are we actually letting him in if he does it? Probably not. Wow, great group of people here. There's a nerdy looking guy in the group named Keith, who insists to his fellow dude bros that something about this doesn't feel right at all. And then they score their underage beer. Hell yeah, brother. After a very silent car ride, we get to the hazing starting location. They're enjoying some underage brewskis because they're cool like that. When they get Eddie set up with this GoPro kind of rig so that they can film his endeavors through the spooky woods into the mansion. Poor Eddie just wants to get it over with so this kid can have some goddamn friends. So he's ready to hop that fence and get a move on. As Eddie starts his trek, one of the dude bros steps forward. His name is Muzo. He asks about releasing the hounds, which I initially thought they were actually going to release dogs to hunt him. Like an idiot, which in all seriousness, where the hell would they have hid them if they had actually brought them? I don't know. Yeah, he imitates a wolf's howl to presumably give Eddie a scare. But great job, you alerted the cops. The officer steps out and pulls the usual small town rich parents act. And he basically shrugs off what they're doing here because the officer knows one of the kids' dads because he got a surgery from him. Come on. He tells the kids that he'll look the other way for the underage drinking. But hey, don't trespass. Get on out of here, you silly gooses. The cops leave and the group proceeds to argue about the situation. Some are debating about leaving because they don't want to get in trouble. Some are debating about going to find Eddie and then getting the hell out of here. Ultimately, a few people dipped out, but 5 of the guys decide to trek out to find Eddie. No major conversations of substance really happen for a bit, honestly. It's just dude bros being dudes in the woods. A car appears to pull up near them, but it's just the girls. They appear to just be dropping off some batteries for them, I guess. Again, no conversations really of substance occur. It's just the fact that the girls wanted to join in with them. But dude bros stand firm that this is Hell Gang activity. And Hell Gang is just for sausages. Keith, who is behind the camera at the moment, seems to be the only person actually concerned about Eddie. So, Keith is alright in my book. He's trying to get this group moving so they can find the poor kid. But he really doesn't want to go to the house. But whatever, it's okay, because they go anyway. One by one, they climb the fence and they get a move on. As they're going through the woods, Keith and Austin, who is mostly behind the camera, have a conversation. Keith gets annoyed when they talk about the house's story because they didn't do any proper research about it, unlike Keith. The dude bros get a proverbial hard-on that Keith knows the story of the house, so they put a pause on Finding Eddie so that they can film a really cool scene for their channel of Keith telling them a spooky, scary story of the house. So now we learn the legit, still tragic backstory. He read police reports and he saw photos from the scene, so he pieces together what happened. Apparently, the Brandt family went to church every Sunday, until they didn't. So a neighbor called the cops to check in on them since Mrs. Brandt was due for that 13th child soon. 13 is the bad luck number. But the cops found Lady Brandt and the children all unalived in the nursery. Since this happened so long ago, there wasn't any solid forensics that they could really do to figure out who did it or how long they were like that. But Mr. Brandt was missing. Keith talks about the forensic photos he saw and how disturbing they were. He's a 4chan user. He uses 4chan. The bodies were posed. Lady Brandt was sitting in a rocking chair, and the children were all sat cross-legged as if she was just reading them a story. But there wasn't a book. It was the 13th child in her lap with the cord and everything, like, still attached. And they were impeccably cleaned up to where, like, there wasn't any blood on or around them. Wait, that's actually kind of creepy. Ew. It reminds me of, Victorian death photos. How they were, like, posed. Because it wasn't often you could get a picture in those ages of, like, your whole family, so the only way they could half the time was with their unalived family members. That's what it reminds me of. That's messed up. Keith stands firm that he refuses to go to the nursery, and he makes them promise that they won't make him go to the nursery. He's gonna go in the nursery. He's gonna end up in the nursery. Their story time is interrupted by a loud rustling in the woods. They all get up to look around, but all that can be heard is indistinct whispering and some approaching animal noises. Until Muzo comes running over on all fours and scares the absolute crap out of them. Needless to say, none of them were happy about that epic prank. The bros start having some girl talk, but it's very quickly interrupted by a jump scare that spooked me like twice. Ew. Oh, ew. I hated that. Oh, I hated that. Ew. But their adventure continues, and they seemingly start to feel a bit bad for Eddie because they didn't even give him a flashlight. Keith trips and he falls on the corpse of something, and they're all like, "Oh, it's Eddie! It's Eddie!" But it's just a deer. But they are, like, pretty shaken up about it. And there's a lot of things that could kill a deer in the middle of the woods. It could be bears, or wolves, coyotes. After all this walking, they finally find the pool, and they proceed to ignore the "don't enter" sign. I consider this where the f***ing around and finding out really starts up, so let's just, like, check that off. They enter the pool and find fairly fresh blood at the bottom, but they move on from it anyway. As well as they see a notable fountain that they find to be demonic. That's kind of demonic. Okay, Zach Bagans. We get a scene with Austin, and a red ball bounces past him and into the pool. He calls for the others, but all he gets in return is silence. He looks back at the pool, and there's a creepy teenager just standing there holding the ball, saying, "You know there's no way out." But wait, he recognizes him. It's Billy. I'm waiting for, like, a really, really cheesy ghost to count it. It was too dark. Too far away to really see that one. I'm waiting for, like, a really, really cheesy one to mark it off. Like, I'll know it in my heart when I see it. It's the first guy that they sent here. But before a possible conversation can ensue, he gets called over by another guy named Chase. and it moves on from it. They approach the house, and it is huge. Money shot. Who the f did that? Why did that just reappear in my memory? iDubbbz. Oh my god, it was iDubbbz. And his unboxing videos. God bless his old good content. There's a light on at the top of the house. Possibly the nursery if the group has their facts right. A creepy figure walks along the porch of the house, and it creeped me right out. Ew, I hate that. Ooh, I hate that. when I watch ghost shows, because I'm like an avid ghost show watcher, I like my spooky, scary happenings. Those kind of bits where there's like you can see a dark shadow move, scare me to my core. Creep me out. I'm tapped out. I'm spooked. That kind of shit weirds me out. They're actually kind of getting me with some of these scares. I don't know if that's embarrassing or not. They approach the porch and they find the camera rig that they put on Eddie just sitting on the floor of the porch, like in front of the door. And they notice that the memory card is full. How is he supposed to know y'all were pulling the shit on him? Oh, he drained the whole memory card. Oh, off. So now they get ready to watch what Eddie recorded, pretty much. They're huddled around a small monitor watching Eddie's endeavor. They mention that he sounds terrified and they want to see what might have happened. They believe he's running from something, and we get to see Eddie's camera view. He's terrified. He's yelling at something to get off him. He's on the porch of the house, right where the group is. He removes the camera rig from his body, looks into the camera, and says, "Hey, look, I did it. I made it." But before he gets any further, the door behind him opens. His eyes go into spooky mode, and he gets just pulled right through the door. But one of them is insistent that it's just an elaborate prank, bro. And he's just hiding in the house. And now they're hype because they think that Eddie is just playing them, and they want to play him back. Keith, however, wants to find Eddie and get the hell out, which I definitely respect. But obviously the rest of the group is like, no, we'll be fine. Chase tries to have a one-on-one talk with Keith, who is very uncomfortable and not okay with the situation. But they're stern in the fact that, it's fine. We're in a group. We'll be fine. We get an eerie shot of the group walking around the property, shooting the outside of the building, when we get a creepy scene of someone looking down at them from a window. Ew, I hate that. Oh my god. That reminds me of a creepy story. Okay, sidetracking from the movie for a second. Back when I lived in New Hampshire, my family and I would go on like walks a lot, and there was this one specific road that I despised walking on because it was so like hilly, really steep hills, but my mom was hooked on it. There was always this one house though on that road that skeeved us out. Like you ever just like, I don't know, you see a house or you walk past a house and you just get bad vibes. You get really bad vibes from it. That was that kind of house. Like you walk past it and you're just like, ugh, I don't like it. I don't feel Gucci. We swear to Christ that there was one day we walked past it and we looked over and we saw like a blind or like a curtain. I don't remember because it was so long ago. But nonetheless, one or the other just quickly like went back into the way of the window. Like as if we were being watched walking by. It just, that scene just recalled that memory. And I'm more creeped out now. Chase and Austin discover a root cellar, but they decide to walk away for now. The two find a back door that is unlocked and they enter the house into what appears to be the kitchen. They have a look around and Austin urges Chase to keep his voice down. Realistically, I mean, it wouldn't be bad to not be super rowdy there because you do have the risk of squatters. Some of them can be hostile. In a sense, usually, I think, to just, like, get you out. As much as I think I would love to, like, do urban exploration number one, I'm too much of a baby. But number two is also, I don't want to deal with the squatters. Because some of them chase people out with, like, weapons. And I'm short. I'm clumsy. I'm gonna get clocked. Austin keeps hearing weird things, but Chase doesn't seem to hear anything. They continue walking around and they find another door to the basement. No, thank you. They decide not to go down there as it smells pretty rank. They wander into a dining room and they see something emerging and then just dropping from the dining room tablecloth. But surprise, surprise, it's Muzo! He's playing an epic prank on the two! Now the group is together again, but they still haven't seen Eddie anywhere. But Chase does play around with an urn he found. Keith, on the other hand, finds a family picture, but something's odd about it. He doesn't recognize some of the kids in the photo, and there is, like, way more than 13. Well, how many are there? So Mrs. Brandt is somewhere in the middle. I'm gonna assume Mr. Brandt is somewhere there. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 15. I clocked out 2 of them, assuming that there's the couple. So there's like 15 in there. Austin and Chase tell the group that they found a root cellar, but they didn't go down there yet. But they will totally check it out later. Don't worry, bros. The search for Eddie continues with another well-done creepy ghost shot. Ew, oh my god, why do they have such creepy shots? Yo, I hate that. I'm actually, like, getting goosebumps. Adventure and shenanigan continue with a group that can hardly take anything seriously, and they are so full of epic pranks, bro. Austin looks out a window and he sees one of the people dressed similarly to that of the photograph we saw earlier, just standing outside looking at him with a voice in the air that says, "We're home." But Chase walks up and he doesn't see anything. Austin is not doing Gucci, so he goes to the bathroom as he is feeling very sick. But now Lady Brandt is in the tub behind him. Ghost titties. She stands up and they both walk to each other. Now this is some Zach Bagans shit. Touched by a ghost. Oh. Then Mr. Brandt, with a wound to the neck, walks in and shuts the bathroom door. Oh. Rest in pieces, dude. And he proceeds to watch Austin and Mrs. Brandt have a steamy makeout session in the bathroom like the cuck he is. And then they both disappear, and Austin is left confused and probably pitching a tent alone in the bathroom. Blue-balled, he leaves the room. With a first-person view from the camera now, heavily breathing, he is probably lost in a hallway. There's doorknobs jingling around him. And then Chase appears out of absolutely nowhere and finds a very shaken Austin. I was fondling some ghost titties. Austin walks to the door that he heard just jingling around, and he decides to open it, which is bold. It looks like a child's room. And then we get jump scared out of that room. The whole group proceeds upstairs where they see a light on, and I was still focused on ghost titties. Ghost titties. Boobies. They check in on Keith before going up much further, but he's acting a little strange, and they begin to worry about him. Is Keith possessed? Oh my god. Oh my god, wait. Wait, is this gonna be like Ghost Adventures? Whoa, I'm possessed. I really wanted to strangle Aaron. Something was forcing me to drink More whiskey. Chase finds a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Brandt, and he makes a cheeky little comment about how Austin looks like a young Mr. Brandt. They stop in front of the door with some sound behind it, and none of them seem ready to open it up. But our boy Keith steps up and opens it. And here we learn it's the nursery, the room Keith was uneasy about and really, really didn't want to go into. Chase finds a lovely drawing from one of the darling children of a gory scene inside the family pool. Make sure to put that one on the fridge. Yeah, let's just hang up our kids' morbid drawings on the wall. Good job, little Jeffrey Dahmer. They ask Keith if this was where they found Mrs. Brandt and all the kids after they were, unalived. But he doesn't answer. He just stands there, menacingly. They try to convince him to leave, but Keith starts whispering about wanting to play. When are we gonna play? I think it's safe to say he's under some sort of possession. He is possessed. He is possessed. Whoa! Keith got possessed and asked us if we wanted to play. Here on Ghost Adventures. Keith keeps mumbling to himself and acting strange, and then he just drops his flashlight and starts levitating. The door slams shut with just Keith inside. The rest of the group hauls down the stairs, but when they get down there, a creepy figure just emerges from inside of the wall, and they're all freaked out to say the least. They cut the camera in a panic. When it comes back on, they're all trying to talk about what happened. Lucas thinks that Keith has been unalived, and Chase thinks that, come on, bro, just because he's been lifted up doesn't mean he's been unalived. They start yelling at each other again. Lucas looks back at the family photo they saw earlier, and he sees Eddie now in the group of children. Are the victims being added into the picture? They are! That's why there's so many. That's crazy. I didn't expect that, though. That's kind of cool. They're all pretty freaked out and ready to go, but Austin is standing a bit menacingly behind the camera. And as the other three agree to just get the hell out of there, they open the door. But Austin hears a voice say, "Make them stay." And it possesses him to just rush forward and stop them from leaving the house. Muzo grabs the camera and he gets a clip of Austin demonically yelling to put the camera down. This made Muzo lose his mind, and he's hearing screams in his head. The other three start trying to break out from the house, but the door won't budge and the windows won't break. For some ungodly reason, Chase and Lucas leave Austin, of all people, with Muzo. Why would that ever be a good idea? Austin starts interrogating a very upset and distressed Muzo about what he hears. But it's nothing super useful. He just hears a lot of screaming about how they are not leaving the house anytime soon. Then Austin hears his name get whispered from the top of the stairs, and he leaves Muzo behind. There's movement up the stairs, and it looks like it's one of those creepy kids from the photo just walking into one of the rooms. Austin, of course, follows suit. When he walks into the room, the camera gets pulled out of his hand by an unknown force, and it kind of plays an epic prank on him by just dragging the camera around a bunch every time he goes to grab it. Eventually, the spirit lets up, and he picks the camera up once more, only to turn around and see a bunch of black-eyed ghost children sitting down and looking at him. Can that qualify as cheesy? I don't know, because I don't want to be too critical. I shouldn't have put it. I just shouldn't have put it down. Austin goes back down the stairs, but not before Chase and Lucas return as well. And Muzo is nowhere to be seen. Good job, Austin. The two are understandably mad at Austin because he literally only had one job, but also was Austin really the best choice considering his freak out when they tried to leave? The two ask Austin, "Come on, bro, what the hell is up with you?" And Austin explains that he's seeing some real weird things like children, himself, Billy, Keith, and Mrs. Brandt. They ultimately forgive him because something is very much going on here, and they're all scared. So they squat up and they agree to look for Muzo. But they clearly aren't hopeful, and they start to think that he may be unalived. Austin hears some strange sounds coming from the root cellar, so he opens the door and he takes a peek. He doesn't really see anything, but when he pulls his camera up, he sees Mrs. Brandt with her unalived children. Then Mr. Brandt walks into view with another very unalived child. Chase walks up and he checks on Austin. Austin explains what he sees, but Chase doesn't see anything. It's just a normal old cellar. The camera shows that Lady Brandt unalived her children. Chase steps in front of the camera and we see Mr. Brandt sauntering behind him carrying one of the children up the stairs. Once Chase moves and Mr. Brandt is out of the view, Austin speaks to Lady Brandt herself and is like, "Whoa, bro, you unalived all your children?" And she responds with the fact that she wanted to be with them forever, and nobody will take them. Scene changed to Lucas alone investigating when he sees an open window with wind breezing through it. So he runs toward it, but he gets stopped, and when he turns around, his mouth is sewn shut, but only for a few seconds. Teehee. Epic prank. Now the window won't open again. Back to Austin and Chase, they end up finding Muzo, who is also standing around menacingly and unresponsive. They notice that he's holding a pointy object. Lucas walks into the room and just trots right up to Muzo and is like, "Yo, where you been, Loca?" Amidst all the warnings to get away from him, Muzo turns and gives Lucas a poke with the pointy object. This causes a whole fight to happen between Chase, Austin, and Muzo. It dulls down enough for Muzo to get up and start walking. Austin tries to put pressure on Lucas's wounds, and Chase tries to reason with a probably possessed Muzo, who picks up the pointy object again. Chase tries to make him see the situation, but to no avail, as Muzo pokes himself with the pointy object in the general heart area and is definitely unalived. And then there were three. Chase tries to get Lucas up so they can get out. Austin is dazed for sure, and he just screams. But wait, what? Muzo is moving? Yeah, his unalived body with the pointy object is still inside, and he's possessed by the Lady of the Hour, and she's speaking to Austin. She says it's time, and the inevitable is happening. Oh, I thought she said the edible. She accuses Austin of being the one who tried to take her children, and he tells him to return to the family. Then she does a little, ghosty zoom towards him, and she grabs his throat. She's just a little freak like that. Austin asks, "Why me, though?" And she answers that it's because of him. He tried to leave the family, but now he's back, and clearly she doesn't want him going anywhere. He starts coughing and choking, and then he gets levitated, and he stops moving. He is definitely possessed now, and Maury says he's the father. He's lurking behind a wounded Lucas and Chase, and they're trying to hightail it out of the house. But the two are stopped by a high-pitched sound, like when you get a tinnitus in your ear. When it stops, they see Austin, and they're trying to convince him to leave the house. But a voice is heard commanding Austin to not let them leave. Then we get a little window scare. Chase can clearly see that something ain't right with Austin, but it's not a major concern right now. Lucas is 100% not doing okay, but Chase is quick on his feet, and he yeets that urn through the front window, and it actually breaks. So he gets Austin out first, then he himself hops out, and he just leaves a wounded Lucas to jump out of the broken window himself. Okay, yeah, that guy was literally stabbed. Chase tries to help while Austin just yells to let him go. Then Lucas gets pulled back into the house, and Chase decides to book it out of there with Austin. Austin ain't acting right, and he's making some funky sounds on the porch. Chase grabs the camera. He goes up to Austin in this weird state, and he tries to talk him away from the house, but he tumbles to the ground, and he contorts into a real funky position, and his eyes go into spooky mode. He thinking about that Gluck Gluck 3000 from his mommy. Boy with the camera just needs to book it. Chase takes off, but he still has some remorse, and he says he can't leave him behind. Yeah, you can. Deuces. So he stops and he tries to convince Austin to run, but then a spooky lady gives him a scare. And he is hauling out of there. He pulls a Blair Witch move and he pans the camera towards himself to explain that this video was real, and this was all just meant to be a funny haha joke. But Lady Brant is emerging behind him, and we see Chase's eyes go into spooky mode. He gets dragged right back to that house. He wakes up inside of the pool, but Lady Brant and the children are cornering him, and he gets poked in the throat by a pointy object by a possessed Austin. The final shot is now of the updated family photo with everyone included. So let's check that off. Now, let's get into the final thoughts. I'll admit that when I went into this, I had pretty low expectations. I thought it was gonna be rough, low budget, and cheesy haunted house film, but it did exceed those expectations a lot. While the characters were very, very unlikable, it was still a good watch. And some of the scares, really actually did creep me out and gave me a jump. And for a found footage kind of film, it was actually really well done, and I did enjoy it. I do recommend watching it for yourself because it was fun, and there were some scary shots and moments with subtle background ghosts where if you blink you miss it. It kind of reminded me of The Haunting of Hill House, and it really made me keep my eyes on the movie to watch for more because they creep me out. I won't drag on for too long, but if you stuck around, thank you so much for watching. I really enjoy making these, and I plan on making more in the future, so if this is up your alley, toss a like or subscribe if you want. I can't tell you what to do. I stream on Twitch occasionally. I'm not prominently on too many other social media, but I'll link what's available. Minus TikTok at this point. I did the oopsie poopsie of uninstalling it from my phone. With that all said, stay spooky, y'all, and I am out.